Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. Welcome to another 10 in 2023 video where I wrap up the last 10 books that I read in 2023. Today I'm going to cut the rambling from the intro and get straight into the video because I'm sure there will be lots of rambling in the video. So the first book I picked up was Black Notice by Patricia Cornwell. This is, I think, book 9 in the Kay Scarpetta series. And this was actually a really interesting one. I think this is probably one of the lower rated Scarpetta books that I've read. I ended up rating it 3 out of 5 stars, and I feel like maybe it was a bit generous. So Kay Scarpetta is a chief medical examiner in Virginia, and often goes on these horrible cases where she has to figure out how somebody has been murdered, and it's bad times. At the end of the previous book, something really traumatic happens. So a lot of this book is about grief and like trauma recovery for the main characters. I can't really say what it is without spoiling it, but it definitely dominates how a lot of the characters act and feel in this book, which kind of affected my enjoyment. But also I think I was kind of inclined to not really like this one because it has this really strong woman-hating woman vibe, as there's like another high-ranking woman working in sort of similar spaces as Kay Scarpetta in this one, and they don't get along. And it's very much like she's like, ooh, sexy, and using her body to attract the men, and then it's like, oh, they clash because of that. And because this other woman is kind of an asshole just generally, and is always looking down on Kay. They both look down on each other. And it's weird because throughout the series, Kay is always like, I uplift the women in the field, yeah, that's what we want. And in this one, it was kind of like, no. Because this woman dressed sexily, she might have been fine. I mean, she was an asshole, but she might have been fine, and Kay definitely judged her for it. And I'm like, well, just being a bit hypocritical there. So the actual overall crime that was happening in this one kind of fell by the wayside a little bit in comparison to all these other things that are happening, but I'm hoping the next book will go back to normal, or maybe these are just 3-star thriller reads for me. I'm not sure, but they are easy reads, so I'll probably just keep continuing with this series whenever I get the urge. Definitely don't need to pick this series up like all the time, need to know what happens next, but they are kind of just good filler reads almost. So yeah, I give this one 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was Frostbite by Rochelle Mead. This is the second book in the Vampire Academy series, and I finally read it, which is great because I've been saying I'm going to read this one for ages, and I'm glad that I've continued on with this series. This one picks up back at the Vampire Academy, and there are vampire families that are being picked off. Try not to say anything that's not spoilery, even though this book's been out for ages, so you'll probably already know, because you know you probably didn't leave it till 2023 to read the Vampire Academy books, like I did. This one also has a lot of teen angst in it, but there's a lot of interesting stuff in here too. I actually think it felt really short, and it could have been way longer for what it was, and there were some really interesting things that were happening. But then there were also like Rose doing some really juvenile things that I was like, oh, because she does all this adult stuff, and then you're confronted with her doing something really juvenile, and you're like, oh. I think that's like a continuing complaint with me in this series, is that if I had read this as a teenager, I probably would have just liked that a lot more. It just would have seemed more natural. But yeah, I feel like I just made it sound like I didn't like this book, but I did like this book. I particularly liked the end, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So I'll definitely be continuing on with this series. Next up, I finally picked up Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. And this is the best one. This is the best one. My favorite. Loved it. Absolutely loved this book. It made me laugh out loud. It made me feel really very connected with it because the main characters are autistic, and I just loved it very much. There is a very heavy Grumpy Sunshine dynamic in this that is adorable, and I love it. And I feel like anything that sort of starts off a romance with one character accidentally running over the other character is just a-okay with me. Also, there was a moment in this book that just made me cackle, and it was a reference to you know M'Baku from Black Panther? If you read this book, you'll know. If you haven't, I'm not saying what it is. But anyway, yeah, I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend. This whole series is just great, but this one's my favourite. Then I picked up my first Lillian Lark book, and that was Deceived by the Gargoyles. Didn't realise that this was actually book 2 in this series, but I don't think it really matters, because they're all kind of companion books, and they're all just set in the same world about different sets of people falling in love with each other. The concept of this series is that paranormal people visit this bathhouse to find their perfect match. And in Deceived by the Gargoyles, there is a witch who goes to try and find her perfect match, and she ends up getting matched with a gargoyle. And there may be more than one gargoyle involved in this. Honestly, I really like the world. I really like the writing. It's so very easy to read and fun, but also really well considered in terms of the romance. I feel like people actually communicate, and when they don't, they realize that they need to communicate. It's not like, well, we'll just miscommunicate for the whole book and blah, 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 blah. And people just have to sort of deal with the relationships not always going smoothly, but just, I don't know, I really enjoyed the way that it was done. I feel like I just said a bunch of nonsense then, but it was really good. This book features a really interesting dynamic between the gargoyles and the main character, and it's all kind of about like found family and making that connection, because it is what the main character is really seeking, is a family. So it's very heavily sort of rooted in that. If you're looking for a gargoyle romance, then, you know, try that one. It is, funnily enough, not the only gargoyle romance that I read in this wrap-up. I didn't intend to read both of these in the same wrap-up, but it's just worked out that way. So I also read The Gargoyle's Captive by Katie Robert. This is the fourth book. I'm not really sure of the order, to be honest. Anyway, this is the latest book in the A Deal with the Demon series, and I didn't like it. Like, it was fine, but I didn't love it, and I can't really figure out why. So this one follows the same structure as the others in the series. A woman makes a deal with a bargainer demon, he's like, come here, and then there's like another bargain going on, and she has to go live with this paranormal king for 7 years, and if she has any children while she's there, then they get to keep the children, but if not, it's fine, and then she just goes back to her world. So that's the premise. The main character of this book is a monster hunter who is seeking information about her mother, who disappeared in the demon realm a couple of years before. And she goes off with the Gargoyle King, who is cursed, and they're fine. They're compatible, I guess, you know, they kind of match each other, and they're kind of both just lonely people who are really sad about life. I just found that I didn't really connect with either of the characters, and I also thought that the actual, like, main story of this one was a little bit predictable. Like, I knew from the second that the main character started talking about her life exactly what was going to happen in the book, and I was right. And while predictability is nice, I was not particularly jazzed by it in this book. That's a really noisy bus. Could you not? So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's probably my least favourite in this series. So I've had 2 hits, one kinda hit, and then this one was just meh. So we'll see what happens with the next book. I feel like it could be interesting, but I don't know. Next up, I think I require some sort of round of applause for this book. It's Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my god, I finally read it! What the hell? So I finally read Cale's book in the Throne of Glass series. This is the penultimate book in the series, so I don't want to say too much about it because spoilers, but also I kind of feel like I have to talk a little bit about spoilery things, because otherwise, how am I going to rant about what I didn't like? No, I should start off by saying that I actually give this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I did end up really enjoying it, but not for Cale. I enjoyed everything else apart from Cale, because Cale is crap. I think that this had a really slow start. I don't know if it's because we've moved to a new location and it was trying to sort of get that, but a lot of the start of the book was a Cale perspective thing, and I obviously don't enjoy that, so it's not really going to be for me. The characters that I did love, Irene, Nezrin, Sartak, all of them, please give me all of them, spoon feed them right into my mouth. I love them. Just not Cale. I actually really enjoyed the setting. It was nice to see a very different sort of place than the other places that we've seen in this world. It's nice to see something that's kind of thriving, even though there is obviously the threat of faraway war incoming and all that. I like the overall plot. There was something that I predicted, but there were some things that I did not predict, and I was like, oh, what? What? So there was some good revelations. You do have to read this book. It is very important to read this book to get the knowledge of the rest of them. I couldn't have skipped it. I'm glad I didn't skip it. But Cale, man, come on. Cale. He's so bad at women. Everything that this man does in relation to women is just awful. He does not know how to talk to them. He does not know how to treat them. He's just bad at women. And he spends a lot of this book feeling sorry for himself. And I do understand that he is in a position where his life has been drastically changed. And that's fine. But he feels sorry for himself in such an annoying way, and I just don't want to be in his head while he's doing it. And I think by the end of the book, he does have this kind of, like, redemption, but it's kind of an undeserved one. Like, I don't feel like his mind, which we are in, so we can read it, and we know what he's thinking. I don't think his mind went from A to B to get there. and to have that redemption. I feel like he went from A to A.5. That reference would have been better if I'd have used numbers, but oh well. He kind of makes it, but he doesn't. So, also I don't really love the whole let's heal the disabled person's storyline. I just feel like disabled people are awesome too. We don't need to be healed, so. Anyway, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but not for Kale. So next up I read another Lillian Lark book, and that was Found by the Lake Monster. This is kind of a mid-novella between book 1 and book 2. Again, yeah, I just didn't read book 1 yet. We're just gonna ignore the order. You get the basic premise. This one's about a woman who is searching for a lake monster with a group of, like, paranormal investigators, and accidentally stumbles into the lake monster, but he thinks that she's someone else, and then they go on a date! And honestly, it was cute. The characters had nice banter together. It was a good romance. I was actually surprised how little misunderstanding there was in this book. It didn't drag out the fact that, you know, she was pretending to be his date, which was good, because I did not want to read that thing where it's like, we've had a miscommunication and you lied to me and blah 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 blah, and then we're gonna get back together. It just kind of skips that bit and quickly smooths over it, so that's nice. And yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Very short, very, you know, well written. I really like Lillian Lark, apparently. This is what I've learned over the past few days, so probably gonna read some more Lillian Lark in the future. Then next up I picked up Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is a reread for me. It's about a woman who has to search for her sister in this kind of carnival where she doesn't know what's real and what's not real. There's lots of twists and turns. I still find her sister absolutely infuriating. My god, she's the worst. And yeah, I still really like all the uncertainty, and it's just a fun read for me. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then next up, I had to figure out a book to read to cover the Buzzword Readathon prompt for this month, which was emotions, so I picked up Love at First Sight by Cara Bastone. This is a very kind of super sickly sweet romance. It's one of the ones included in your Audible subscription, so if you like that sort of thing, then Cara Bastone is one to check out. I really enjoyed her Love Lines series. It's about 2 people doing a psychology class, and they have to do this project together where they interview couples and talk about love at first sight, and they have to sort of prove or disprove it. So there's a lot of like interviewing people, and they, you know, romance ensues. It was very cute, and it did have some laugh out loud moments, so I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And the last book I'm going to talk about today is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I have been meaning to pick this one up for such a long time. I really enjoyed The Martian when I read it, and it turns out I really enjoy high stakes sci-fi when it's combined with like comedy, so maybe I should try and read more books like that. If you've got any recommendations that are kind of like these books, then let me know, because kind of in the mood for them. This book is about a near apocalypse and trying to stop it, because there's this thing that is cooling the temperature of the sun, and we need to send some people out to try and figure out what it is and how to stop it. And the main character is on this mission. He wakes up and he is the only one of his crew still alive, and he has to figure out how to save his planet. And he also might not be alone, which is all I can say without spoiling any of the things. But also the relationship between the 2 main characters in this book. I love it. It's so great. And this kind of friendship is just, I love it. I also really enjoyed how the book was structured, so you sort of drip fed the main character's backstory as he wakes up with amnesia, and he sort of remembers things as he goes along. I was reading this in the airport on the way home, and I almost cried at the end, and it was a bit embarrassing, but then again I was already sat there playing with the Rubik's Cube in the departure lounge, so crying probably wouldn't have made me look that much weirder. Anyway, I really enjoyed this one, gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm not really sure why I didn't give it 5 stars, to be honest, because the more I think about it now, like reflecting on it, I'm like, maybe that was a 5-star read. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, I put it down as 4.5, so it's going to stay that way because I can't change the colour in my bullet journal. If you made it this far into the video and you don't have anything to say, but you'd still like to let me know you were here, then please leave me a vampire emoji. That would be great. And if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!